Thor enlists the help of Valkyrie, Korg and ex-girlfriend Jane Foster to fight Gorr, the God Butcherer, who intends to make the gods extinct. Thor Love and Thunder is written and directed by Taika Waititi, with Chris Hemsworth returning as Thor, Christian Bale as Gorr, and Tessa Thompson as Valkyrie, and Natalie Portman as Jane Foster. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here, subscribe, turn on your bell notifications, and with this video, this first segment is going to be a review, and then I'm going to talk spoilers. But for now, I'm going to talk the review for this part, and don't worry, I will notify you when we will be getting into spoilers. So let's talk Thor Love and Thunder. Now, the very first person I'm going to talk about in this film is Christian Bale. And I do suddenly believe that without Christian Bale, I don't think this film would be as good as it is. And, you know, I really got to commend him. He done a fantastic job. He done great with the source material that he was given. Every time he was on screen, he was captivating and menacing. And, you know, there was always this air of unpredictable with him. And good kudos to the writers for giving him partly a good first person ideology, and him showing him having this belief of believing in gods, and you know, and this comes at his expense when his daughter dies. You know, when the wish doesn't come true, it feels as if his faith is in vain. You know, and I think that's a good juxtaposition with how a lot of people feel from time to time. I mean, especially with getting over the pandemic and all of the trials and tribulations people have got over the years. I think that's what makes his character so relatable. And yeah, Christian Bale, he done his thing and he was bloody good. I enjoyed the first fight scene that we got with Thor. Taika, where he always seems to have a really good idea for direction, and you know, that first scene shows just how good he can be. I wasn't expecting such a good first person ideology depicting Thor and Jane's relationship in between all of the missions and Thor having to save the world. It did depict how natural their relationship was and how they got along with each other. You know, and it was heartwarming to see them like that together. And in doing so, it only adds up more layers to them, and in the sense of how three-dimensional they are as characters, which made the audience care. The cinematography on the Shadow Realm was absolutely brilliant. When the characters, when Valkyrie, Thor and Jane were on the Shadow Realm, Taika does this really cool thing of that when they're summoning their powers on the Shadow Realm, it illuminates the picture, and it's a really nice contrast. The backdrop of the Shadow Realm with it being black and white, and you got the colours coming through on Mjolnir, Stormbreaker, that fluorescent blue blending with that kind of dark, opaque colour. It was a really nice contrast. So now we're going to talk about cons in this film, the discrepancies I've got with the film, and there are a few. And look, without no rain, there is no potato. So, you know, we live and we learn. And, you know, I think that the comedy in this film was definitely overkill. Look, guys, I love a bit of banter. I love a good laugh, but you know, when Zeus is talking about orgies every 5 minutes, it's kind of like come on, man, we gotta pack this shit in. This is a bit mad. You got this love triangle between Thor, Mjolnir and Stormbreaker. I was kind of like, what's going on here? You know, I thought somebody had slipped something into my Pepsi Max. I thought I was hallucinating when I saw that. But this is Taika Waititi's quirkiness coming through in the film. And to be honest with you, I didn't mind the first joke, but when it became repeatedly, it was like, okay, I'm not really feeling this. And I think really with Thor Love and Thunder, that is the tail of the tape with this film. It's just that everything feels like it's overforced. Every piece of dialogue just feels like it's pushing the comedy too much. It's pushing the laugh too much. And I would rather watch something believing it's as serious as anything, and then the comedic timing comes, then something funny happens, But when you push it doesn't have that same effect. I'm a big believer in less is more, I would rather just, if it was up to me, to focus on 5 moments to be funny. But when they do come, they are funny. But the comedy is more in the sense of it being spaced out, rather to opposed of it being interjected in every single scene, and that can lose you at a certain point, as it did with me. It took me out of the film. The goats were initially funny in the beginning, but by the time I saw them the second and third time, I was like, okay, this is becoming a bit of a drag now. Look, this film is baffling, because there are moments of brilliance in it, and there's moments that are just absolutely just feel completely nonsensical. And 60% of the time, the dialogue between Thor and Jane just kind of feels like it's being forced, and it's like cringe. And the dialogue makes you question, how were these two people in a relationship with each other? On one hand, you get some good moments from their backstory, then you get interactions with them that just feel like it's all over the place. There's even one moment where Jane jokes about her own cancer, and I'm like, what's going on here? I mean, that's also another thing that kind of makes you feel a little bit perplexed as well. You've got a film trying to be a comedy that's also tackling the theme of cancer as well. So you're like, it really makes you feel uncomfortable in some moments. And to add, the Real Rejects mentioned that in this film with Jane, she's really coming to understand what it means to be a superhero, and all of the responsibility that comes with it, with that mantle. And what's baffling to me is that the moment that she becomes Thor, in a sense, is there's no like regress for her to learn martial arts, or she just kind of just becomes Lady Thor and just starts whooping everyone. And that's kind of like, it feels a little bit throwaway. And one thing as well, when I talk about the cringe nature of this film, is that she's asking for the validation of, what am I meant to say when I get into these interactions and this and that. And that another part that felt forced, and it's kind of like, I'm just thinking, just be yourself. Like, what do you need to say? You already got one of the most powerful weapons in the universe. What do you need to say to anyone? Do you know what I mean? Like, that was just kind of confusing to me. With this film, it felt like there was a last draft that Tiger had, but then somebody, whether it was Tiger or the executives, that came and said, no, you need to add this, this, and this. And that's what makes the film feel oversaturated with its comedy. And don't take my word for this, just take this with a pinch of salt. Like, I feel like Christian Bale had an ultimatum with the writers, because if you look at the tone of what the other characters like compared to him as a villain, it's like, you can tell it's night and day between them, and it does feel like he went to them and he said, look, if we're going to do this film, and this is the last draft of what we're doing, we do not tamper with my character. you know. And I can only imagine Bell saying that because he is passionate about his work, and you could see with the character that he was given that he was prepared to give that interpretation. And I don't think, you know, he was going to let the executives push him in avenues that he didn't really want to go to. I mean, that's just me in my own mind as to what could have been happening behind the scenes, because without Bell in this film, I just don't see how it would have even survived at the box office, to be honest with you. No, granted, it is going to make money, but I think one of the main talking points with this film is Christian Bale's performance. Okay, so people, we are now going to be onto the spoiler talk segment. If you've watched this part of the video up until now, the review side, and you haven't yet seen the film, go watch it, come back, join us for this spoiler talk side, and let me know your thoughts. But without further ado, now we're going to be talking spoilers in 3, 2, 1. Now, when it comes to Thor as a character, we've seen him go through this transition for all the Avengers films. And you know, look, I only do get what Taika is doing with him, because if he is a character that is of omnipotence and he is like this demigod, you know, with all this powerful, you know, ascendance that he's got, you know, he would take things in vain. He would be a little bit obnoxious, which I do get, but also in a sense, he would know the power he has and also the responsibility of containing his power. You know, you would think he'd be a little bit reserved in the sense of what Zack Snyder done with his Superman, you know. But one moment in this film that just, I was like, okay, they've gone too far with this comedy route with Thor, is when Gore comes down to Earth, and you've got all of those disgusting looking aliens that look like they come out of Jimmy Savile's arsehole, you know, just, you know, roaming, causing havoc amongst the village on Asgard. And you know, then he sees Mjolnir floating around, and he has no regard for anything else that's happening around him. He's just following Mjolnir, saying, here, come here, like, you know. And I'm thinking, you know, is that really a hero? Where he's more obsessed with seeing his once before weapon flying around rather than helping everyone else. It's just kind of like, come on, man, you're going a bit too far. You've completely retconned the character now. And this next part that I found was a major plot hole in the story. So as we know with Jane, she goes to the Asgard amusement, and then she sees Mjolnir all broken and on the thing. Now, what the film is telling us through the montages that we see in the beginning is that this film is after the events of Endgame. Now, if Jane has gone there and seen Mjolnir all crimpled up and broken in thousands of pieces in that container, then that would mean that it's just after the events of Ragnarok. Am I right or wrong? Right? So then she gets the power of, you know, and then I'm thinking, well, is there time travel in this? Where is this meant to be? If this was after Ragnarok, then she would be at Infinity War helping everyone else. So in a way, it's like Marvel have outplayed themselves and not stuck to the continuity of their own cinematic universe, and it's like just unbelievable. Yeah, going back to that love triangle between Thor, Mjolnir, Stormbreaker. Now, there's this running joke in the film where Thor wants to get Mjolnir back, right? And all of a sudden, out the blue, Thor and Mjolnir, they're sentient, like they can talk, they've got emotions. This has never been a thing in the other films, but in this one, it seems to be a new route that they're taking. Which I didn't really mind, but then at the same time, the thing that really did just annoy me is that I don't get why Thor would want Mjolnir when it was back in the day and Thor was with Jane and it was only just Mjolnir. Stormbreaker wasn't even forged yet. You see in that scene, he talks to Mjolnir and says, I want you to always look after Jane. It's like he literally cast a spell into Mjolnir, right, to protect her. And then all of a sudden, then when he sees Mjolnir, in the future, in the present now, he wants Mjolnir back. But why would you want Mjolnir back? If you want Mjolnir to protect Jane, it's just, it just feels like too many ideas that were thrown into a film, and just to see the payoff, just to see what could happen. But yeah, like somewhere in this film there is a masterpiece, but what we got wasn't that. And the biggest standout in this film was Christian Bale's Gore, the God Butcher, and as another discrepancy, this is not really Bale's fault, but if you're called Gore, the God Butcher, you would think that we're going to see him, hunt down these gods and make an example of them and kill them. But obviously, Disney were never going to really do that, because that would take the film into the territory of a 15. It would have been fun to see him hunt down those gods individually and then have him oppose his ideology with their ideology as to why he wants to get rid of them. I think that would have been really cool, other than the fact of him just finding Thor because he's on Earth, and technically that is the only god that he hunts down. So a little bit lackluster in that avenue, but I really just can't fault what Bale tried to do with this film. But yeah, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. What did you think of Thor: Love and Thunder? Did you love it? Did you hate it? I mean, hate's a nasty word, but did you dislike it? And yeah, did you agree with the thoughts that I made in this video? Who knows? I don't know. Let me know in the comment section down below. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Thank you for watching. I hope Phase 4 picks up, and I hope Phase 5 learns from these mistakes that were made in these films. But my final score for Thor: Love and Thunder will be a 6.5. Yeah, guys, look out for Elvis. That will be my next review here on the channel. Thank you. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.